also. So wonderful to have you all on this first Sunday. We really would love to have you in the campus because first Sunday meetings are always, physical meetings. We used to have it for half an hour. But since we are still waiting and watching, we thought for June, definitely we will start the online. July, we will again review the situation and then take it forward. Actually, there is an increase in number, but the fortunate thing is that the cases are not severe at all. It is just like a common flu. So we are just waiting because the school is on, all the children are here, and tomorrow again, one whole batch of class 11 is coming to the campus. So we need to really consider the safety of those children. So that's the reason why we are still online and we are very cautious. Nevertheless, it is a beautiful thing. COVID had given us an opportunity to go online and we are able to invite a lot of friends from all over the country, if not world. So let us have this hybrid if possible. Otherwise, definitely we would like to meet in person. There's nothing like meeting in person, coming together as friends and having a dialogue and exploration. So today the topic is such a beautiful topic. So fortunately, it was just unplanned. Dr. Dilip Inamdar, Satish's brother, he is here. He was just taking a walk. He's about to go. In 1 hour, he has to leave the campus for some other purpose. So I just pulled him in. I said, how can you just walk around when we have our first Sunday meeting here? And I just want you to introduce what is Kate talking about. To be intelligent is to be simple. Let us listen to him. Then we will take it next step. Kindly be muted.
Namaskar, everyone. These two words we very often use. And then probably most of the time when we use these words, we don't look into the gravity of the words. Since I'm from a medical background, particularly the oncology, that is cancer, one anecdote that happened in my life, simply, occurred in front of me. I told the patient that you have malignancy, and then he kept on nodding his head. And then I said that, there are, 3-4 stages. And maybe, I didn't use the word unfortunately, but then you happen to be in the last stage. He said, it's okay if I'm at the last stage. And then I explained him what kind of a treatment he needs to take to rather at least prevent the further growth of it, and everything about it. Then at the end of my entire narration to him about that cancer, he said, am I free now? Free to go? I said, then when will you get admitted in the hospital for the further treatment? He simply refused. He said, no, I don't have a time to get admitted into the hospital. I have to go back to my fields and once again be with my farm. And in spite of repeatedly telling him the gravity of the entire situation, he wouldn't budge and went away. Surprisingly, we thought that, he will not live more than about 3 to 4 months. He appeared after a year back to the hospital, comparatively healthy, unaware of what is internally happening to him. Then at the end, when he decided not to take a treatment, I had told him to be very strong, and that is what exactly he had done. I believe not to take the things to the mind is intelligence. If we have taken the things to the mind, which I saw it in most of the well-learned people, moment we uttered the word malignancy, they got shocked. And not that most of the people died of a malignancy, but they died because of the mental pressures. So can we realize the difference between the mind process and then the intellect? I'm going to rather, from medical point of view, talk to you about what is mind, what is brain, and what is consciousness. And then we can come to the simple, come to find out what is supposed to be simple in life. One thing is for sure, that we go on collecting not many information because it is inevitable. We have all the five senses, which are every moment very aware. But that awareness is with a one direction to it, and that is the sense of physical safety. That physical safety is rather, appreciated by us with a gravity which is not natural. Why I'm saying is because moment we think that something is very, very safe to us, we make a strong memory of that. And that strong memory is so dominant that it becomes responsible for the re-excitation of the brain. Now, maybe this terminology is not from the field of philosophy, but this terminology is extremely important. Let us understand brain now. Mind, I may not have to describe to everyone because all of us, we have that mind and we know how it operates like. But brain is, unless there is a stimulus, I'm repeating, brain will not react. There's a difference between action and reaction. Internally, whatever has been happening, brain is completely responsible for that. And then the deal between the internal environment and brain is supposed to be intelligence. Say, for example, let us take the autonomous nervous system. You have put a morsel in your stomach, immediately the digestive process will, get activated. It happens with intelligence. But when mind reacts, there is an excitation of the brain. It rather, responds to the stimulus that is being given. Again, that stimulus is also understood by brain. The stimulus is in two ways. Stimulus related to pleasure and stimulus related to pain or difficulties in life. Whatever excitation the brain can have, brain will not utilize all its potential while working. It will take the excitement, that excitation to a level, depending on the strength of the excitement or strength of the stimulus. If the stimulus is strong, only part of the brain will work. If stimulus is very, very strong, a greater part of the brain will work. If the stimulus is less, then very minute aspect of the brain will work. But what may happen, no stimulus in the world can rather be responsible for entire brain operation. That's why there is excitation, there is de-excitation and re-excitation. Out of that, physical causes are not more than even 5%. 95% are mind. And if the mind is in turmoil, if the mind is not straightforward, there is no intelligence, no simplicity. Hence, it is absolutely essential for us to understand what is intelligence. Operation of brain is intelligence, non-operation of brain is complex. So simplicity, let me take one more example and tell you what is supposed to be simple. Now, child, okay, you give different taste to the child when it is in the womb. I'm not talking about the child which is born already. And then we have the six tastes, Kashaya, Tikta, Katu, Madhura, Lavana, Amla. Kashaya is, alumni. Katu is hot, chili hot and all that. And then Madhura, Lavana, I may not get into the description of it. And then supposing you introduce it to the amniotic fluid, whatever is best for the balance of the amniotic fluid, to that taste, the child will reflect in a different way. And then If it is adverse, it will react to it. That's why we need to have all our senses absolutely intact, and they can remain intact when we are not rather, involved by mind. What happens to us is moment there is event. We don't look into the event, but we look at the psychological background of that event. And because of that, it becomes extremely difficult for us to be childlike and simple in life. I believe, we can take up this and then begin our discussion.
Wonderful. It's so interesting, to listen to. Okay. And again, coming back to you, Dr. Dilip Inamdar, as a doctor, I have seen the patient, have seen the pathology, seen the prognosis. When you use the word mind and the brain, it's exactly like what Kay is talking about.
Yeah.
Can you live with your full brain, not a degenerative brain? And where is the mind? It looked like you're asking that question.
Yes.
The mind is the consciousness with all its reactions.
Yeah.
And engraved etched in our cells. Can that go away?
Yeah.
Wow. Is it possible? Or should we go for a treatment? Will take time. What is your feeling?
With treatment, it will definitely not happen ever in your life. Yeah. Let's take 3 phases. One phase is a deep sleep. Second phase is a dreamful state. And third phase is awakened. Whenever we are awakened to something. We are not awakened. Now let us take up anybody in life having a dream, and all of us, we have gone through that phases. You see quite a few different things. Okay, you maybe, you will land up into an island which is of a different nature, probably which you have never seen, and all such kinds of things. Or maybe it is related to, people whom you see, or whatever it is. One thing common that is in the brain is you. There is not a single dream in life in which that I is absent. Now, same thing in a wakeful state. So, I would rather, just for the heck of it, I would say, in that case, what is reality? Is the dream reality? Of what, with a wakeful state is the reality? Actually, both take us to a confusion. Yeah. Now we have 5 senses. All of you are very well versed with it. Ask a question to find out, Murli. Are all 5 functions at a time working?
No.
When I talk to the children, yes, no. When I talk to the children and I ask them, are you wearing a chain around your neck? They said, yes. But were you feeling it? They said, no. And then with this observation, we come to a state to find out what does it mean to be sensitive in life. Now, to be sensitive and to have a sensation, they are 2 different things. We need to grasp the thing in a whole way. How to do it? Yes, wonderful question to rather deal with. See, in the operation theater, when we are operating, what minute things we don't see them on the road. In operation theater, we see them in the body, though it is very small. They are minute things. The entire energy, when it is rather completely utilized, entire energy and complete utilization, not only your eyes, not only your ear, not only your touch sensation, taste, all these five senses simultaneously operate. And when there is a simultaneous operation of all the senses put together, which depends on the sincerity, which depends on your rather sort of a passion to look into it, and then unfortunately, passion, sincerity, involvement can never be taught.
Wow. I think we need all these words because we are trying to understand through brain.
Yeah.
And we are trying to understand through our intellect. But when you talked about that farmer,
Yes.
he overcome a cancer
Yeah.
without any confusion.
Yeah.
He said, I have to go back to my farm.
Yeah.
So that knowledge in its place
Hmm.
is also a simplicity, isn't it?
Yes. Now, maybe, you and me, we need to go a little deeper into it and find out, is knowledge equivalent to or synonymous with wisdom?
It's not.
It's not. The farmer was wise.
Yes.
And didn't have the knowledge.
Exactly. So physical well-being was.
Physical well-being, he needed it to, rather continue cultivating.
Yes.
Without that, he always felt that life is not.
Absolutely.
So this life is not otherwise. Have we ever, when particularly we get conditioned to certain, maybe, sorry for using this word, all of you, my friends, when we are lured or into the field of entertainment.
See, he's challenging all of us. He's saying we are neither having wisdom nor wise like the farmer.
Absolutely.
Already I can see somebody want to ask a question. If it is
Please.
a question, Sauminarayan, yes.
It is a question. I just wanted to, a very fascinating story to kind of reflect on. So, Doctor, the question that I have is, because of the fact that the farmer did not want to reflect too much on the disease and be focused on what he wanted to do, what he was closest to, did the progression reduce? I'm actually curious if she's still alive and was able to overcome the disease, because there's a distinction, because I just want to see what the end state is. By not focusing, did he delay the progression, or by not focusing, was he able to, actually defeat the disease itself, right? So that was my question to you, but thanks for sharing the story. Very nice. You're on mute, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you start. You say.
One is physical and the other is psychological. Psychology also acts on the physic, right? And that quantum is far greater. Otherwise, a person who would have lived for some months did live for some years. So that is indicative of the strength of the mind. Okay. His mind was completely focused in living because his means were so apt, or rather, you can say that so optimum, that had he not gone in that way in his life, he would have never been alive. That doesn't happen to us. We secure ourselves, not physically, but psychologically. Look at the structures that we have created. All the structures ultimately indicate to us saying that we are paranoid. Sorry for using this word, but I have seen thousands of patients in my life, and they are into that state. Moment, there was a time when I used to almost see around 55 malignancy patients a day. Okay. And in the evening would tell them whether they have the malignancy or not. I have seen people collapsing I have seen people becoming unconscious, and they particularly came from the class where they have had the information about the disease. But this person was completely ignorant about the disease, but he was extremely knowledgeable about the life that he has to lead. The same thing I have to rather say over here with a lot of us stress to it, that what we require is the understanding on how to live sanely in the insane world. There are diseases around. Not that, we can be ever free from aging. All such factors are there, but then our entire battle is to rather, balance ourselves at a physical level, which becomes psychological eventually. So if we understand that, we will have altogether a different perspective of life. We will be completely integrated. And that integration of all the senses put together, I would call it simplicity.
Wow, it's so interesting, how one can be simple, how that can really take care of the physical security without even panicking about treatment and cure. The body has its intelligence, but we are blocking to start with our own survival and complicating, interfering with everyone around us, because we are neither intelligent nor wise, because we are moved far away from simplicity.
Another thing is, Murli, we don't know what is physical intelligence.
We don't know.
Yeah. Anybody wanting to take up this, what is supposed to be the physical intelligence?
Yes.
It's a very, very important question. And unless we have really gone deeper into it, we'll go on making the mistakes.
Okay. So the question Dr. Dilip is asking, is there anybody who would like to, take this on physical intelligence? I can see Dave, your hand is raised. Yeah. Please join, sir.
Dr. Dilip Inamdar, my question to you is, as Kay often said, the humanity has taken a wrong turn. Can you apply the same thing to say that knowledge, because of its limitations, especially medical knowledge, the scientific knowledge, the modern medicine that we are applying to, has it also taken a wrong turn? That's my question.
You got the question?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to have one sentence.
Yeah.
Dev is an ex-Rishi Valley student,
yeah,
and deeply interested in bringing the right kind of living along with K. Over to you.
To be living intelligently and living healthily, to me, is just the same. Okay. Now, if you see the kind of intensity that is there in human being in finding his own food, the same intensity do we see it elsewhere? That's one question which we have to take it. We have our sort of a hunger, and unless that is rather been satiated or that is fulfilled, we will not take any other activity at all. So let me make little elaborate way, in case we have to go into, let me make distinction between the pre-agricultural era and post-agricultural era. Post-agricultural era, there started the kind of a culture we have created for ourselves. There are certain good things about that culture also. I'm not denying that. But is that adequate enough for us to live completely in a sane way in which we are free from conflict within ourselves? That's a question. Pre-agricultural era, everybody was completely busy. Everybody, not one person, not community. They were individual, but only for physical safety, they had to come together and form a herd kind of a thing. Now the concept of community, Where we have taken the wrong turn, as case is here. We are not a community. We are not a cohesive community. We have the concept of community. And then that concept, we go on rather, decorating it. And in that decoration, we don't realize that not only we have taken a wrong turn, but we are taking one by one wrong turns only. Now let us come to the physical intelligence. Say, for example, there's a cut to my hand. I don't wait for anyone to come and treat me. Whatever best that I know, maybe pinching your fingers. And you know that if you keep your fingers pinched, there is the bleeding which stops. Okay. So physical intelligence is seen in every event, not only when there is injury. Now let us take, the way we have arranged our day. Other day I was talking to some children over here and told them that you find out the day and a night and the variation into it. If it is dark, automatically birds go to their nest and rest. What happens to us? We are trying to expel out the darkness with our technology and other things. So instead of rather understanding the technology, we are misunderstanding it. All these misunderstandings, they are responsible for a wrong turn in life. So can we have technology in its own place? Can we have the explorations going on in each and every walk of life? As the exploration has to go for our own self, or rather finding out who you are, in the same way, we have to understand the relationship with every event, every minutest kind of even article or a particle. If that is going to happen, then probably we will have a right relationship with everyone, nature, and ourselves.
Thank you, sir.
I saw some other hands up. Nikhil, did I see somebody, or Roy? Okay, we'll wait for the next questioner to join us. See, unfortunately, why the so-called intelligent community, the human beings, not educating appropriately in this way?
Oh, yeah. We have first of all labeled ourselves to be intelligent without actually finding it out. And if at all we are called intelligent, what is that intelligence is doing? Jokingly, there were 4 people on the dais speaking about. So one of them was a scientist, and then the last person was from the military. So the scientists said that, the inventions that we have done a miracle, and because of that miracle, we have been in a position to land on the moon. So farmer also, appreciated the technology and its use into the agriculture and the productivity and then the profit and all such kinds of things. Last person was a military man. He said, wonderful. Earlier, we had to have a sword in our hand and then fight 1-to-1. No, we don't have to do that. I'm hidden somewhere and I just put a bomb on somebody else.
That's what education has
and
done.
That is what the education is supposed to be. Oh my God. And hence, we have to find out what is supposed to be intelligence. And can now say simple thing is information and integration and intelligence are the same. Because information, we are bound to collect it. Are we integrating it to each and every person's life? And as long as this information, integration, and intelligence, they go hand in hand, whatever state that we are in, we cannot be calling ourselves intelligent. And that is why most destruction is happening through human brain.
Thank you, sir. I think I can see Yashas Ray, but before that, Baldeep wanted to ask the question. Baldeep, please, you go ahead. After that, Yashas.
Hi. So going back to the farmer's example,
Mhm.
do you think his reaction to that bad news was not fear-based and more faith-based? I mean, he decided not to react, but to respond to it. And that's why probably he did not give a reaction which was very normal.
Can you elaborate the question, please? Because there is the answer in your question itself.
Yeah, so my question is what happens whenever you hear a bad news, sometimes we tend to just react to it and
Whenever
we
we,
react to it.
sorry, I'm not stopping you. Whenever we hear a news,
A bad news.
yeah, we
Any
immediately
news?
differentiate with good news, bad news.
Okay, so we tend to react to it based on whatever our level of psychological safety is, right? And the difference between reaction and response is that you do not react on the basis of your psychological safety, but you absorb and then you tend to respond to it the way you want to respond to it, right? So I think that is also the difference between intelligence and wisdom.
Yeah, intelligence
So,
and
Wisdom.
wisdom. Okay, yeah, got it.
So I just wanted to understand your thoughts and what do you feel about that?
See, moment we utter a word mind or psychology, we are talking about our past experiences, and through that past experiences, whatever we have collected as a memory. If our memory fails, we will not be able to go into the past. Now, in the past, we have gone through multiple events in life, and certain events have given us the sense of a security. And certain events have put us into a difficulty and which we find not very easy for us to deal with. There's a constant reaction between we and the outside. And through that interactivity, we are very alert to know whether my existence is going to remain wholesome or will it be challenged. Now, this wholesome kind of a sort of a living is never deeply taken by us because of one thing, and that is the non-understanding of the changes that have been happening constantly into the entire universe. We have gone all the time to look into the things through our superficial senses. And because of that, whatever information we have it related to the external world and also about ourselves is always limited. And we have been depending greatly on the limited to understand the entire life. So can we now question ourselves and find out whether these rather limited faculties be given so much of an importance in life? Because ultimately, we require these faculties, but its importance, we have blown it beyond its sort of a size. Now, say for example, child feeling safe in vicinity of mother. Would you call it psychological or would you call it physical? If it is psychological, then when the child grows, why does it go away independently and look at its own freedom? Therefore, psychological security, is it a fact or it is a non-fact? In my view, it cannot be a fact for two reasons. Number one is through kind of an intellectual exercise or circus. You can never, ever find out a sense of security into your mind. And second thing is moment there is a mind, it is relating itself to the past, and past is never a fact.
Hello, sir.
Mr. Ray, Yashas Ray. Yashas Ray or Yashas Roy.
Yes, sir.
He wanted to ask a question. Please kindly go ahead.
Sir,
you were talking about intelligence, sir, I have a small doubt. The thing is, why is the brain against negation? Why is it, it has got into a comfort into the old things. It cannot negate what is false. K is saying to negate what is false instantly. But even after knowing what is false, why is the brain being conditioned to drop the false immediately?
Brain doesn't negate, sir. It is the mind which negates. See, let us look at the brain. Say, for example, supposing there is a touch. Within 1 second divided by 24,000, the signal will go to the brain. But it doesn't go to the brain directly. It goes to a junction, which is known as a synapse. As far the physiology of brain is concerned. In the synapse, now in the beginning, the touch is there. Okay. Now what is touch? Touch is a wave. If there is no wave, the touch cannot be rather felt by the brain. Now that wave are ions. Those ions, you may call it electrical, you may call it anything. You may call it electromagnetic, give whatever name that you want to say, but they are ions ultimately. The ions will go into the synapse or the junction. There it is converted into a kind of a neurochemical. And the neurochemical will find out the compatibility with the neuron. Neuron will exist only in a chest possible environment. Now, if the neurochemical is harmful to the existence of a neuron, neuron will react to it by a formation of a process. That process is known as dendroid. Okay, so this dendroid will rather at the terminal end of it have a mind. So next time when that kind of a touch is there, it is not the neuron, but it is the terminal portion of the dendroid which is getting excited.
Wow, I'm excited because Krishna ji
now say for example,
mutation.
I'll take a funny example. Okay, touch by a child. Now if you are male, touched by a female. Female being your either daughter, female being either fiancé, female being either your friend. Every touch you differentiate, sir. And accordingly you reflect. Ions are just the same, but the neurochemical is different.
So beautiful. So Kay talked about a transformation
Yes.
in every cell.
Yes.
That the mind is gone.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just come back to you. I see that Suma and Balaji, but just before that, to clarify, Dave, would you like to come in? Otherwise, I can go to Suma.
Yeah. One question I had, Doctor. Can you say that intelligence can happen only in simplicity and I forget the other word. Can intelligence happen in simplicity and freedom?
Yes, sir. If I may, with your permission, use another word. If we are in a constant present tense, there is nothing but intelligence into that.
Wow. Suma, kindly unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, my question is, in case there is no neurological diagnosis, I mean, diagnosis of neurological disease or damage.
Yes.
What is the significance of a psychological diagnosis of a human being as being mentally ill? Because we're trying to understand the difference between the brain and the mind. And a second part of the same question is the notion of mental illness, the definition of mental illness, as it were.
Sorry, mental
illness.
Mental illness. Yeah.
Is that a science? Is that based on scientific research, or is it just a sort of a scientific definition of illness as a pathological disruption, like you're saying, of cells and tissues and organs. Because if we go ahead and accept the scientific definition of disease, then it follows that mental illness is either completely related to the brain, or it is something that affects the mind. And if it does affect the mind, then doesn't the entire notion of mental illness become a metaphor, in the sense that it's asserting the view that mental illness happens to the mind, which is an abstract thing, as a result of which there's no way we can empirically falsify it, right? Because the mind does not have a material basis in that sense, because the material basis of the mind would then be the brain. The third part of the question is, once we give into the scientific definition of mental illness, is either if it's just the brain that is involved, then we have some material basis to it. But if it's the mind that is involved, then it has a terrible ethical effect on people who are not diagnosed with brain damage or something like that, but are still classified as being mentally ill, even if they're not sick in that sense of the word. And because if they are classified as being mentally ill on the basis of the definition of mental illness as a problem with the mind, then is that not a deprivation of their liberty and responsibility on the grounds of a non-existent disease, and a grave violation of their human rights?
Thank you, Suma. I think you have to invite Dr. Dilip to California, because you have asked a very, very important question, but 3 parts of it. And he's already, showing me that, no, I have to leave now.
Anyway, but in the shortest possible way, I'll deal with this question. There are neurological illnesses, there are psychological illnesses, there are physical illnesses. Okay, all 3 we need to see it. Okay, if there is a neurological illness, it will be getting reflected on physiology and also psychology. But in psychological illnesses, not necessarily there is damage to the brain. But one of the things that you have said, the medical science, our medical science is still in an infantile stage. It's not grown. Wow. So whatever images that we take of the brain, or whatever biopsies that we even do, are not adequate enough for us to know what exactly is the nature and the function of the brain. Myself, I must have done more than 1,000 kind of brain examinations, and externally we see it, we don't find out anything. Whenever we have done all MRI and all CT scans and all such kinds of things, they don't also tell us about what the whole integral function of the brain ever. Then neurochemicals, they are very difficult for us to elaborate into the laboratory and study them. Though, certain substances, which we call it as neurostimulating or, neurodepressing, but they are not about the integral function of the brain, but they are about the certain cortical effect of it. Hence, it becomes very difficult through medical sciences to understand the integral activity of the brain. If brain is damaged, then I would repeat, there will be the effect seen on the body. Say, for example, there is an area in which if there is a damage, then you will not be able to hear. If there is a damage to the optical nerve, you will not be able to see. All such kinds of things. But psychological processes, they are completely different. Now, in psychological processes, what happens is the brain is supposed to be intact, but it is the understanding which is completely dependent on only 2 factors. Number 1 is the sense of security, and number 2 is the availability of entertainment. When the mind is getting entertained, it stops learning. If there is an insecurity, it also, you will look at the event from the sense of insecurity point of view. And then the entire activity of the mind in relation to brain is limited. Therefore, if I repeat once again, neurological illnesses, psychological illnesses, and physical illnesses. Maybe there are psychosomatic. In a sense, body is also affected and mind is also affected. And that is why whenever patients, they come to us with kind of a behavioral problem, we only treat in such a way that they behaviorally are acceptable in the society. But through our treatment, we have utterly failed in evoking the intelligence into any human being. I'm sorry, I'm leaving the discussion halfway. I hadn't planned to come to the study center. And then thank you very much for giving a patient listening to me. And pardon me for using a lot of, medical language. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Suma, thank you so much. That's a very interesting question, but I was really worried, he should not be delayed because of us, but it's so beautiful, the way you asked. What I understand simply in just one word, he said, the medicine, all the so-called research, it is in infantile state. Now, coming to Krishnaji, I always wondered, Kate talked about, we are all neurotic. Don't go to a psychiatrist, don't go to a psychoanalyst, don't go to a counselor. Look at your brain, sir, in your daily living, how you are, doing things, how you are listening, how you are looking, how you are behaving. He said this to young children, but the words are, complicated because we are not simple. Anyway, we have Balaji, Shamal Rao, and of course, all our friends. We can have a dialogue together. We can raise, Anand Swami sir is ready. So first we will ask Balaji and Shamal Rao, then Anand Swami sir.
No, I think I must be given the chance first because
Sure.
I'm asking a question.
Okay.
I am asking a question.
Okay.
In fact, I was ready to ask the question to Dr. Inamdar, but he
know.
has left. Now all of you can answer it.
Okay,
So,
fine.
What I want to ask is ignorance, stupidity, is it simplicity? And the second one is erudite, scholarship, cleverness, is that intelligence? Have you understood the question? So is ignorance, stupidity, is it simplicity? Or is being erudite, clever, is it intelligence? So that is my question, because I belong to the first category.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that question. Yeah, we should continue these questions. So we will come back to Balaji. Sorry for the, Dr. Namdar had left, but we will continue. Go ahead.
Sir, is this my audio, my talk is audible, sir? Good morning.
Loud
Hello,
and clear, sir. Loud and clear. We are not able to see you, that's all.
Okay. Yeah, my question is within the framework of intelligence, what our doctor was referring. And my question is, I supposed to put him, my question is the soil physical intelligence, the physical intelligence of soil, which is I feel superior to psychological intelligence of human beings. So can you throw some light on that? I feel the physical intelligence of soil. Am I clear in my part, sir?
Yes. Balaji, yes, very clear. I just thought quickly, add to what you're saying, right. Because Dr. Dilip Inamdar had been, we are having dialogues almost every day. Correct. He will put it back in one way. Yeah. What are we? We are just soil. He will also say that we are earth. We are much more than that. So even that intelligence is not there for the body because of the mind operating in it. That is
Yeah.
what, comes to me. Yeah.
So it's clear, sir. Then in that case, if
Thank
the
you.
mind is the
Mind is the culprit. Yeah.
component, yes, mind is the culprit. Then otherwise, we are same with the soil in terms of physiological intelligence.
Of course.
Physical intelligence, almost we are same with the soil. I think.
No, we are not even that intelligent because mind is interfering.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Thank you,
we
sir.
cannot take out the mind, as you say right now, to become soil. For
Yes.
example.
First,
Yeah.
be a farmer.
It's on. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shamal Raoji, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Murali sir. I feel the farmer referred to earlier in a real life experience with the doctor is intelligent, particularly when he prefers to live and cultivate the land in place of being treated for an irreversible disease and wait for the organism's ending. He chose life for disease and he lived with death. For me, living with death is also intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Vishal?
Yes, hi. So this is a question. I'm just listening to everyone and pondering over various thoughts that have been shared. So we've talked about the difference, or at least try to talk about the difference between intelligence and wisdom, or knowledge and wisdom, rather. So how do we distinguish between the brain and the mind?
Okay, I think that's a very interesting question. We will keep it open.
Sure.
If there are anybody, I think we can just take it over and then we can get into a dialogue. Because Yashash would like to respond, or I don't know, he has something to say. Yeah, Yashash.
The brain and the mind.
Yes.
Sir, K has said, the mind is timeless, it is untouched, and most of our lives we are living by the activities of the brain. And he is also stating that there is a conflict in us because the mind is timeless and the brain has evolved through time. So time is the main factor of conflict within us. So due to this conflict, we are always observing the difference between the brain and the mind with all its images and complexities.
Okay, thank you. Lalita, would love to have you, part of the dialogue.
I put a question in the chat box actually.
Yes, we saw the chat box, yeah.
Referring to doctors thing, see, how many of us, I mean, this is only my reflection. When we see somebody comes in, walks in, and he goes to a hospital and he decides, no, don't you think that that man was wise, that he knew that there is death everywhere and I have a disease through which, and after my death, somebody will tell me, oh, this man died of cancer, this man died of this. How often do we interact with people who have not been schooled? I interact with a lot of people on the ground, so to say, and to me, that is where I draw my intelligence and simplicity. The way they respond to their deaths in the families, if they have a broken.
Yeah, there is an issue with your audio, Lalita. Yeah, I think there's a signal problem. We will patiently wait.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can also hear very well.
So
maybe Murli sir got lost here.
Possible.
Yeah,
now we can hear Murli sir also.
Okay. Lalita, please, sorry, go ahead.
So I find this a great, this one, when, sorry to say, when I talk with a group of people. I myself am schooled and I'm a teacher also. But somewhere this, when you talk about intelligence and simplicity, it is all about, we know that it's not about the degrees or what you know about the world, what is a flower, what is a brain made of, what is the eye made of, or anything. The simplicity of living and responding and always being in the present, I think it comes very naturally to them than to us who carry this burden of so-called physical knowledge in our heads. And then we talk about simplicity and intelligence.
Yes, I think well said. Yeah.
Mr. Murali?
Sir,
Yeah, this is
Rajkumar.
Rajkumar from. Yeah, can I say
Rajkumar.
something?
Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you, see this, since the doctor has, I wanted to talk to the doctor, unfortunately he has no time. There's a great book called Anatomy of an Illness by Dr. Norman Cummings, exactly about cancer patients he talks, where he says very clearly, people who are positive minded, I repeat, positive minded and positive spirits in their traits, they always come out of cancer. They live longer. So what has that got to do? Are they simple enough to be, they are not burdened by the thoughts or the memory or the data or whatever it is available. Because of that, they are able to cure themselves. I really want to ask this question.
Okay, I think it is nice, but doctor is not here. But Dr. Dilip is just, studied and trained and practiced as an oncologist for quite some time. But he is much more than that. He is into Ayurveda. He is into nutrition. He is into lot more than that. So he just brought brought this case of the cancer, and he being a pathologist as well, doing a lot of investigations. He brought in the history of this one case study, but he would like to say, like Krishnaji, if you keep your body, discover that intelligence, you don't have to read any book. You don't have to really go back to any doctor. You can live hale and healthy, and you may touch upon some energy which is not just related to the body and mind. So that's the kind of things he would be really saying, because the books are quite misleading. When he say that the whole medicine is infantile, you can think of the books. Thank you. Thank you for your participation, Rajkumar. Baladeep would like to come back again.
Dr. Murali, Murali sir, this is Nikhil here.
Yes, Nikhil.
I had a very simple question. I would like to draw the group back to the, the topic of the session today, and I would rather ask that question in the reverse, and try to understand whether somebody simple is intelligent. Is that always the truth? The truth basically, and can we use that as the barometer for our lives also? That if I say my life is simpler today from when it was 10 years ago, can I also use that as a barometer of saying that I am intelligent compared to 10 years ago? So that's my very simple question to everyone in the class.
Thank you, Nikhil. I think that's a very, very interesting question. We have to come back to that question of to be intelligent is to be simple. That's a topic for the day. And connecting to what doctor was saying, is he beautifully explained that the body and the brain, the body which includes the brain, has intelligence. But the mind, which is completely psychological, is interfering, and we don't have that intelligence anymore. So what is that intelligence? Thank you for asking that question back. What is this mind? What is this psychological recording? What is this complicating life we are doing? A farmer may be very simple outwardly, but doctor was very clear in saying that I won't say he is intelligent, but he is wise. So he clarified in a very beautiful way. Even a farmer who is looking simple, he is very down to earth and quite wise. He doesn't want to call him as intelligent. Okay, we will move to Anand. Anand.
So, I mean, the example of farmer was given. Now, I am coming with a question of K himself. K himself was a very simple person. Now, how come he had this problem is my question. Or is it that we're extending our logic too far? We seem to be going only to one side of it. We are not looking at it holistically. When I begin to say the farmer is a simple person, he lives a simple life and he walked away with the disease he lived for many years. There are many people with the disease that have lived. There's a lady in Bangalore itself who was called Miracle Lady. She had the last, what do you call, the, the last WhatsApp, she was in the last street, whatever it is. I mean, and she was about to die. That's when her son showed something in Bible. She repeated that and she overcame the disease. Even today, I'm in that infant Jesus, that quote is there. And she goes every week and she gives a lot of sessions over there. She survived. So we cannot take the example of farmer and then make it very profound. I mean, one has to look at all these things holistically, not just in bits and pieces. Even when we talk about the mind, why am I condemning the mind all the time? When I condemn that, is there an understanding of it? So that is what we need to look at itself.
I think that is really, really true. We somehow got connected to that farmer because somehow we see that outwardly. But Kay is talking about much more than that. Probably it is not an example. It's not something outwardly existing, but are we capable of inquiring and going into this topic? Now, I also see a word, a small sentence in chat box. Can someone define the word simple? Actually, this is the topic which I have just chosen from Krishnaji, because he used simple English. If we complicate the word simple and try to understand who will be asking, who will be explaining to us what simple means, we will be taking it to another level. Can we really look at, we are complex. That's why we want to believe everything in words. We want to ask another. Can we ask questions which are really challenging our present belief? Can we really discover that our chaotic life is simply neurotic? It's not really intelligent. Is it really possible to really educate our children and all ourselves, keeping aside all that what we have read and our craving to know more? I think the freedom comes from there. Simplicity is connected to that. This is how I look at it, because the dictionary word etymology can take us to another level, at a very intellectual level. But I'm sure that there could be somebody in our group who is capable of doing that. I would like to have them here because Nikhil also had asked that question. Yeah. Please go ahead. I can see the hand raised. Paliwal. Louder, please.
Yeah, good morning to all. It's a really nice discussion. And I'll just share my observation. I am not taking any position. So I just want to share my thoughts around physical intelligence and the intelligence which we expect from our mind, but we realize that actually mind is behaving more chaotically than intelligent. So my observation is something that when physical system expresses its intelligence, the simplicity of that system is because the physical system has clear-cut utility value for its intelligence, right? So our brains are designed for actions in response to the environment, right? So whatever stimulus is arriving at my senses, my brain has to generate a suitable response to the environment, because the utility value is probably security or well-being. There can be any such parameters, but the utility value is very clear to the brain. And therefore, physical system appears to act simply intelligent because their utility, they are clear about their utility value, right? Now, when it comes to mind, what we have seen from K's thoughts are that according to K, the utility value for mind should be order. Murliji can anytime, rectify or whatever it is comment. So I'm just saying, I'm just serving my observation here. So when it comes to mind, the expectation is that mind should function in a certain order, which unfortunately mind is not able to manage or maintain most of the time. So what is happening for mind is the total information which mind processes is so much that in that net processing of information, how to maintain an order for mind is really a difficult task. And evolution has also not so far, I'm now referring to evolution of consciousness rather than evolution of biology, that our consciousness evolution is also at this point of time somehow is not equipping our mind that out of so much of information processing, how can mind actually maintain a certain relevant order with the ecosystem in which mind is embodied? So therefore, that's my views that's why mind is not simple, because the utility value of order for mind is yet not clear. Thank you.
So did you say, how can the mind maintain order with the ecosystem?
Yes.
What does it mean, sir?
So if you see, K has always emphasized that life is a web of relationships, right? So the very nature of our self and the very nature of our activities and the very nature of our mind is existing in a plurality of relationships, right? We can classify these relationships at many levels, but I'm assuming the message is clear here. Now, for mind, how to maintain a certain order in this web of relationship, it seems that mind is still not able to cope up with that. So generating too much of redundant thoughts, too much of analysis, too much of defense, too much of offense, these parameters are not actually helping the mind to maintain the relevant order in the plurality of relationships in which it is existing, right? So my question would be to this group, that how can a mind which is processing so much of information can also maintain a certain order in the environment, in the ecosystem in which it is embodied? And is it possible or not?
So the question is, how can there be order when the me or the I or my mind is there? How can there be an order? What am I? When I talk about the mind, it's a human consciousness. I am part of that human consciousness. So how can I say that there has to be order?
Yeah, I really.
And we're talking about the ecosystem. Every day we are damaging the ecosystem. The global warming, the weather changing.
Anand, I would like to add what you said, without going. It is obvious that the whole calamity outside is because, the Homo sapiens. And we are that. There is no individual. And actually, I'm so happy that you brought in that word consciousness. It has nothing to do with brain in one way, but it has something to do with brain also. But that is the conditioning. So we really have to take it up. Anand, please continue.
I mean, even when we talk about simplicity, sir, or simple, we seem to be making a huge mistake. Simple is not easy, sir. To live a simple life, it's one of the most challenging things in life. To be a simple human being, it's quite a challenge. So when I say simple, how do I look at that? Generally, we feel it's very easy. Anybody can do it.
No, Anand.
So again,
Anand.
Yeah.
What I really feel, that word simple is quite simple, but we are rather complicated. Our education has complicated. Our upbringing has complicated us. And it is not just today, from time immemorial. Thousands and thousands of crores are being spent for destruction. So it is very evident we are going to destroy all of us and this planet. So the simplicity is not the problem. Can I realize that I'm so complex, moved so far away from this, simple existence, at least to be a wise person, to eat when it is really required, speak when it is really needed, but active, alive, not become a slave to anybody, anything. All these things are included. So the simple is simple. I would like to invite Sudhirji also at this point of time.
Good morning, friends. So I joined late, but the discussion appears to be going very well. So I would like to just share my views on this simplicity that is being discussed here right now. Let us take that energy. I'll take it from the energy point of view. And in that, I would like to say that the energy that is right at the base of whatever expressions of life are there, that energy, if at all it is seeing what is being created out of it, we cannot understand what kind of a vision that energy is having. So we'll leave that out, but that will be the complete and total unit as existence. But further specification of that energy would like a human being to see the way the whole nature as a unit and the human being a part of that. So in that will be the harmony, the order, which will be arising out of that existential unity. So that kind of intelligence, if it is operating, it is bound to be simple, because the whole thing is a complete unit and in harmony. And further down, we are now supposed to be functioning in that unit from various limitations, various jobs we have to perform, various responsibilities. In that also is a simplicity of functioning. I do my job, other person does his job efficiently with full vitality, full enthusiasm. And that is also again a kind of harmony in the functioning world. The problem arises when the simplicity starts breaking down, is when I create a world of my own desires, my own selfish interests, my own concerns inside my head. And so does the other person. And in that, I am living in my world, everybody else is living in their world. We have our separate concerns, separate desires, separate interests, separate fears. And in that, the simplicity completely breaks down. And in that breakdown, I am fighting the other person. So I am very far away from that existential simplicity, from that harmony of the nature as a unit. I am just a human being, as are plants and other animals. And the functional unity is going on side by side, but that gets affected when the psychological disharmony, disorder comes in, then, lots of arson and violence, and so many things are going on. So much destruction is going on. So the farther I am away from that simplicity of the existence, from the simplicity of the organic unity of the nature, from the simplicity of functionally coexisting with each other and bringing in my own mind, then the simplicity completely breaks down. And in that, if I am searching for simplicity, it won't work. If I am laying down rules and regulations of what simple is, how different parts in a society can live simply, all that is going to break down, because that is not the way to find out, to understand really what simplicity is. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have actually Sriniv. After a long time, I'm seeing him here. Shekhar, we haven't heard him for quite some time. Would love to listen to you. Pooja, quite a few. Anyone?
Hello, sir. Since
Yes,
you mentioned
sir.
my name, hello. Since you mentioned my name, I thought very quickly I should respond and say hello back to you and to everybody else who is there. So nice of you to have seen the list of participants and noted my presence after a long time. So of course, I mean, just to take about 10-20 seconds, I don't mean to come in the way of the discussion and debate that's going on. I was, week after week, as you know, present right through 2020 to 2021, if I'm not mistaken. I think 2020, sometime around June, it started and then went on till March or April of 2021. I was there right through every week and et cetera, active, responding, summarizing and all that. Then for about a year, I was kind of off, and then somehow, today I don't know. Somehow I happen to either find the time or whatever one could say, that space to be able to come back in. So that is why I have come back in, and therefore, hello to you and hello to everybody else. And that's so much that I would like to say at this point in time. So I'll just listen, and if there is something useful, valuable that I'm able to input, I'll definitely do it before the close of the discussion. But as of now, I would just like to listen to it a little bit more until
Perfect.
I have something to share. Thank you so much. But thanks a lot and have a nice day, all of you.
Perfect. You see, this is a very, very beautiful topic. Krishnaji is talking that we have somehow we have taken the wrong step. That is what, beginning somebody was pointing to. And Dr. Dilip said that we continue to take wrong steps. Now, isn't it the time to stop moving in that direction? Now, just stopping, isn't it that simple? I would like to interpret in that way. I have been doing A, B, C, so many things, but now I see that there is absolutely useless. Even that can go on without me doing it, or rather, nothing will going to happen if I stop it. Now, if I'm doing wrong things all the time, why can't I just stop? Why can't I just listen to this man who is saying, look at yourself, sirs. What you're doing, don't repeat after me. Just see how you are living day after day. Are you listening? Are you looking at all? This is the questions he's asking. He is not asking us to go to anybody. Rather, he is questioning, any one of us going after somebody. So, case seems to be simply pointing out, sir, it is possible to be intelligent. It's possible to be wise. It's possible to be taking good care of this body. And use thoughts. Don't live only by thoughts. How do we really take this, further? It'll be nice to hear. Shekhar Rao, I haven't heard you. Pooja, or anybody for that matter.
So can I put one question?
Anand, please, please.
So when I keep saying cases, he puts these questions. My question is, why don't we put these questions to ourselves? Are we putting these questions to ourselves? What Kay is talking about? Isn't that essential? The questions what he put, can I put the same questions and look at it? In fact, Kay said I'm acting like a mirror. But I keep saying K, but it is not K. It is me who is putting the questions. Isn't it so?
Yes, I think that's a very, very important question, Anand. Suma wanted to join. Go ahead, Suma.
No, just responding to this question of simplicity. I think we wouldn't ask for this whole yearning for simplicity comes from a sense of nostalgia of having lost it. It's the complexity of our own existence, the culture and the divisions that make us yearn for simplicity in some sense. So just like we describe light to be the opposite of darkness, in some sense, I think this simplicity is the opposite of complexity. And so is it possible to sense that and not get trapped in this binary opposition? So a lot of people usually ask me if I bring in a quote from Krishnamurti, or I remember something that I've read from him. Is it not imitative? Is it not that one is retracting back into memory and asking these questions, and therefore the question is not a true question because it's emanating from memory and and it is being expressed through thinking. It may be so, but why is that such a big problem? It shouldn't be such a big problem, because in the end, asking the question with great sincerity and asking it not because Kay has asked it, not because it is one's own personal question. It maybe somebody else is asking that question. So it isn't really a problem for me. I mean, personally, as to who is asking that question. If one senses that one is not asking that question to oneself and just questioning others, then it makes sense to look at it and ask oneself that question. Go ahead and ask yourself that question. But if you are part of this dialogue, and like the video that you showed, there's that human consciousness, which is the truth, and it's not the individual consciousness that has substantial existence, that it's a part of human consciousness. So there's just the question: how does it matter who's asking it or where it's coming from?
Can I answer that?
Go ahead, please.
But when I say K says that, am I not making him an authority? This is what I'm looking at.
No, let us not go into that, because let us really come back. Either we have heard K directly or indirectly, or we have read K, but we also have been read about so many, people all around. Now the question really, we have been educated that way. We have to read about Babur, we have to read about Akbar, we have to read about Socrates, we have to read about everybody whom I don't know. But nobody is talking about ourselves. And we are also not interested. Okay, now forget about being in the school or college. Right now, we are all adults. If we pretend that we have a beautiful family, excellent relationship with everybody, go ahead. Nobody bothers. But if you really open your eyes and see day after day you have problems, why? Why we haven't solved our problems of living? Now we think that it is money can solve all the problems, or X or Y, or some dogma. So none of those things are going to help. So it is loud and clear. So those people who are interested about earning more money to secure and be happy, be intelligent, let them. But that's not going to make you intelligent. Our intellect is merely imitating and manipulating And that's not intelligence. So can we really come back, what will I do with my children if I have? What will I do? My problems of living day after day. I have problems of everything. Why we are existing in this way? The only species in this way on this planet. And we claim that we have a brain which is much evolved and super intelligent. So challenge is we are not. We are unintelligent. And we are actually leading the blind. What will you do with your life? What will you do with your spouse, kith and kin, with your children, if we are going to continue in this way? And what is this intelligence? This is just going to have BA, MA, PhD, or doctor, engineer, or whatever. Is that intelligence? Anand Swami sir, I know that you are ready.
Whether I'm ready or not, I would like to make my comments on this. Yes, during these discussions, we went on saying that simplicity is order. We mentioned that. But look at the complexity that we have gone into in various ways. This one, that each one of them think that they are very orderly. Hitler thought his thinking was very orderly, and somebody else like him that also thinks he is very orderly. Even an insane person in a hospital thinks he is very orderly. Only he thinks he is a king or he is a thing, but all the others don't see it. They are in disorder. So, but is it just the simplicity? Is it just order? Without perception and clarity, what is simplicity? And the opposite of the simplicity is the complex one. Who thinks he is intelligent without perception, without clarity in his mind, is that being intelligent and wise? So look, you don't ask me any answers for this, but every one of us will have to go into this and look, listen, and learn about this. Both what we think as simplicity. Simplicity is not a thing to be practiced. It is not to be adopted. It is not to be lived on that basis. But on the other hand, that the complex thing, what we are thinking as intelligent on this one, that has to be looked in, and therefore, if necessary, to be negated, or is to be given up. I don't know what there is no particular process, and it is not a question of defining at all. But like I have already mentioned in several other this one, can you ever define intelligence, love, affection, anger, or anything at all? Therefore, the minute you define, you are already the scope of your understanding is limited to that what you define. But if you don't define, your mind is open to learn all the aspects of that. So forget about the definition. And why do we have to go by definition, live by definition, living? So the ever open mind of looking, learning, and listening to the life at large is that I feel is the only intelligent way of living. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. But I feel still it is not simple what you said. I think Kay said very interestingly in another way, when I say I know, you're complex and you're limited. When I really say I really don't know, don't look for definitions, don't look for an answer from somebody. That is the beginning of intelligence. Why are we so loaded with what we know? And why are we craving more for knowledge from another? Why are we not living in the moment? And Dr. Dilip was mentioning that being in the present is that intelligence. Why not we just listen to another? Why not we look? Is there any problems at this point of time? No, but we haven't solved those problems. Now, when they come in front of us, why not we be looking at it with that kind of a intelligence, which is freedom? I'm just asking, putting the words in one way, Sudhirji, but be simple.
So the questions that you are asking with lots of why not, why not, why not, I think there are three explanations for that. One is that we are not certain, 100% certain, without any doubt, that the way we are living by creating a world inside my head is not going to work at all. It has not worked, it is not working, and it will never work. So that certainty is missing. The second point is that whenever we face a problem in relationships, we are always hopeful that this time, possibly I'll find the right combination of solutions. So that hope is never dying. And the third very important point is that in our heart of heart, we really don't feel that this way of living is very dangerous. Although we see the complex destructive nature of this all around us, yet in our heart, that feeling is missing, that it's a very dangerous way to live. So these three factors are very important for me.
Okay, now there is a list of three. What do others feel? We haven't heard from quite a few of the participants. Are you interested only in just listening?
Yeah.
Yes, Shekhar, please.
Yeah, I think the questions that what we are hearing and the process of thinking, the brain and the mind part of it, nicely brought by Dr. Dilip. Yeah, the question that's really kind of goes back in our dialogues and inquiries is this: having understood it intellectually, why are we not being able to convert that in actuality? Right. So what is it? Why is it that the whole dissipation of energy is happening in trying to understand this, grasp this, define this, put it in a structure that it takes into the kind of an understanding, knowing very well that it can only take us that far. At the point earlier in a conversation also came up that with this finite capability, would we be able to grasp that infinite? Now, what would one do in having kind of not only care but face the life, seen the stuffs, being rational, sane, but still struggling with this the internal structures that's not been able to kind of loosen up, to even to kind of loosen up a bit to see something fresh, something new, or not even a yearning for it, but even kind of been able to, for a moment, take a pause and let all the structures, the problems, the situations of life be there. And would that be a kind of a moment of the real deep reflection? But one gets into that deep reflection, I think our deep demons keeps coming out. Probably we are not equipped to kind of deal with those demons of these harsh realities about ourselves. for myself. And then I tend to look for solutions elsewhere, either from a wise man or a ancient text or a very intellectually erudites put it clearly, so that as these saying, the hope that something or that will kind of a trickle, and hence I get that clarity of living life in a way that I live a life without the conflicts. But my inability to deal with my own deep demons, when they're trying to pop up, when I kind of calm the mind, when I try to see the things in a little bit clearer than the hazy stuffs that I have, very quickly another structure within myself comes and kind of covers that. Why am I so afraid to look at that? Is it that I lose my identity along with that I'm nothing? If not with the material stuff that I identify with, but there is some intellectual stuff that I identify with. What would happen if I really, really face all those demons out? And also face this fear of complete lack of identity, or rather identity gives me a certain sense of security and certainty. And all through my life, I'm looking for this kind of a sense of security and a sense of certainty. And at a deeper layer, I know that it's not there. Can I learn to live with that uncertainty? Can I learn to live with that insecurity? Can I learn to live with my deep demons coming up? Is the questions that kind of come across for us to dwell, as individually delve deeper and as a group to kind of have a dialogue on. Thank you.
Thank you. Santosh?
Right. So I thought to just also say a couple of words here. To me, it feels like simple. See, for example, the brain, we generally always respond in like to a challenge all the time. So it's like a challenge response mechanism, as like Case says. So if that's the case, simple is to see most probably the challenge as it is without any translation. See, for example, a guy comes and tells me, or my wife, whoever, comes and says, clean that place, right? She could say, please clean that place. I have no time. Yeah. She could say, hey, stupid, you have done that. Can you clean that place, right? In both of these cases, the challenge is to clean the place. But in a simple way, it's not seeing the challenge, but most probably only the words. And in the first place, maybe I want to clean the place. And the second place, I have a resistance there. Right? There is a translation that's happening there. So it's not very simple there. It gets slowly complex because it's not seeing the challenge as it is. So simple would generally mean it's like without any effort. And seeing and listening probably needs no effort. And like Suma was just mentioning some time back, right? If she asks a question, to just listen to the question, right? That's the challenge at the moment. But then people think, where is it coming from? Whether it's coming from there or here or, rest of the places. And, the challenge is lost basically. So people are not simple enough to see the challenge as it is. So just to see the simplicity is to see and listen at that moment. And to see the challenge as it is, and then probably there is a response, which is also simple enough. Thank you. That's all about.
That's really simple. Srinidhi, please.
No, so as we sort of, approach the latter half of the discussion time, or let's say the end of the discussion time, I think it's good to trickle down from the philosophical / intellectual to the actual. So on the ground, practical stuff, why don't we do? I mean, after all, the people who have all gathered here are our fathers and mothers, our parents. So therefore, why don't we make a beginning? I mean, if we can see very easily and understand that if all the K schools are located where they are not in a concrete jungle. They are placed amidst mountains and lush greenery and amidst nature and animals and all of that. Probably there is a leaf to take out of that which is that possibly there is some simplicity in the way nature behaves, and human beings, which are basically, let's say, the father, mother, the family unit with the children, the sons, the daughters, etc. All of us are placed possibly in a very complex context right through the day, with the gadgets very close with us, the mobile phone, the television with all its channels, the laptop, and so much of number crunching to do, completely caught in theories, intellectualizing, hypothesizing, projecting, estimating, calculations. I mean, this is what the mind is filled with. So why don't we all say it's a call to action and say that this topic, which is about whether we are being conditioned through this education and therefore taken away from simplicity, and carry this beyond this discussion time into this rest of the Sunday and say, I'm going to hold the hand of my daughter and my son and take them out to the park. I mean, that's a different setting that I'm trying to see whether I can give them and give myself. So possibly there is some level of, collective learning in this, because I myself am somebody who's caught up so much in technology and gadgets and calculations and in this very fast so-called digital metaverse world, that possibly is one of the reasons I've become a very complex human being, and very inadvertently, unintentionally, I have transferred this to my children. Not only personally me, but the context of the society that we live in, which is so fast-paced, has forced us to even imbibe make our own children imbibe these qualities. So we can, it's possibly a call to action. We can make a beginning right now, today itself, that we leave all of this at home and just walk freely to the park and spend and look at the bird, listen to the bird chirping, look at the blue sky, look at the possibly the leaves, shaking, see the dog, the street dog that is running towards us happily and wanting to be hugged, see the other people who are generally taking a walk around, and possibly then, it is some way to sort of slow our steps. And I would say that this is possibly a practical way to make a beginning in this. So I think I would urge myself first, and hopefully the rest of the people here, to make some beginning into practicalizing our intellectual and our theorizing and our philosophical within quotes kind of discussion, because it is in the doing. The actual philosophy is in the doing. Being good is in the doing good. It's in the actually being good. That's what it is. It's not talking good. So while I do not take away the relevance of the intellectual content of the discussion that we have all had, I think one of the ways that we can trickle it down to a simplistic approach is to actually make this happen in a very small way, make a beginning, and possibly share this through our WhatsApp group, how it was, etc., etc. And I think that becomes one sort of a very practical, meaningful platform to expand our learning kind of a thing. Each person, how he felt, she felt, etc., etc. As a father, as a mother, holding the hand of the children. Perhaps we are holding the hand of our children after a very long time. We've only been holding their mobile phone, or we'll only be, allowing the school bus conductor to hold the hand of the child. How long? God knows how many months later we are actually doing it. I mean, some of us, I'm saying, if not all of us. So I think all of this touch and feel, this bonding, being with nature, going back and trying to explore some level of simplicity in a very practical level, I think is a good way to make a beginning. We can share the learnings, and that's one way of, simplicity itself, therefore revealing out of a very practical approach. The second bit I want to say, which is a quick 10-seconder, is that any discussion on simplicity and intelligence cannot be diverged from truth. You can't take away truth whenever we discuss about simplicity and intelligence, because the distilled residue of intelligence and simplicity is actually truth. It is the escapism from truth that is, making us live a very, very complex life. But if you just, let's say, abided or wanted to abide in truth always, then there is a lot of simplicity that brings to it. Whether that truth is in the way that we want to dress ourselves up and not to, let's say, please somebody else, whether the truth is in the way that we speak to others, relate with others, our behavior with others, in the sense it is not artificial, it is not pretended, it is not hypocritical. So this is what I would call as, abiding in truth. And there's a great amount of simplicity in doing that. So I thought I'll just quickly make this comment and check whether there can be a call to
Actually,
action.
Sriniji, as you said, it is nothing intellectual what we are talking. And then if we are just taking it as words and theories and dogmas, and then it is absolutely useless. But we need to talk. We need to have dialogue. We need to meet. That's important. Thank you for your participation.
True.
I
I
saw
agree to
Pooja. Yeah, Pooja wanted to come in between. I just saw. Yes.
Okay. Hi, good morning, sir. So when we're talking about being simple, it's not about the external simplicity, because we're not talking about having less material possessions, which is fairly easier, and live in this illusion that I'm living a simple life. But I'm sure we're talking about the inner simplicity. And when it starts internally, then it will get expressed outwardly also. But it cannot just start vice versa or the other way around. So I'll again, as sir, you said that, I'll again just go back to our education system, because our education system aims at only making the students read different subjects, but we don't have any subject like studying my own pattern of mind. And and from the beginning, that mind gets baffled, and we are just taught to choose these things for my own interest, for my own security, and that's what we start learning right from the school. And then we feel that the only tool that I have to solve all my problems is my own mind, and we just start relying heavily on that. And we are never taught that that is the creator of our own problems. And when our education system, society, everything is aiming at these things, then this clarity somehow it gets distorted. And when there is no clarity, there cannot be simplicity. So, so this is what I feel, that the whole education system is such that it is only there to just make us confused, and we start living only for ourselves. What we see in a child, simplicity which we see in nature, that simplicity we lose as we age. And that's why we cannot know what intelligence is. We cannot just, we can only assume, we can only have an idea, but we would never know what intelligence is. So simplicity of mind is definitely different, and it is more to do with simplicity of mind inwardly and not outwardly. That's all.
Anyone else?
Murali sir, can I say something?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah. Yeah, so the discussion between you and sir in the morning, it probably pointed to us that the body as the physical existence, as a biological being, is also the part of the nature. So all that one could do is to help it survive to some extent. The rest of the discussion is probably psychological, in the sense the whole thing that we carry. So that understanding, if we get in life to help us survive, and also this body, which is a nature, to allow it to survive, and what Krishnaji talked about comes after that, and not yearn about that. You know, it cannot be got after going after it. So probably the confusion is there, wherein we are trying to get something psychologically also in trying to survive. That's all, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are living because we are living. and we think that we can live. No, we can't. You are just living because of that you are thinking. And the thinking unnecessarily is complicating. And to live, you don't have to think. Actually, can we really teach our children? But much before that, can we really learn that there is nothing to learn, nothing to think? You are living as long as you are living. You don't come in between, interfere with that. That's to me, it's the simplest one can do. What we are doing right now is complicating a lot more, continuing that wrong step taken by the humanity from time immemorial. If we continue in the same way, our children are going to be pushed into much more complex situation. And that's definitely not going to be intelligent way of living. Maybe we have 3 more minutes. If there is anybody who would like to have, something to share, please come. Otherwise, we can meet again some other time. Chitraji.
No, I just want to share something beautiful which crossed my mind. After listening to all of you, it culminates into something. Simplicity is that characteristic within us, which can be easily, I would say, invoked or something, or it is a catalyst, which at every moment keeps helps us to make the state of our mind in a state of vulnerability, without resisting, without condemning, without justifying, and all that. So that is, I would like to put it that simplicity is that characteristic which acts as a catalyst to remain with what is, and that gives us the mental energy to be vulnerable to any situation. And this vulnerability is not weakness, it is the actual strength to face any situation. And that may be a new way of looking at things with its own energy. That's how I would like to put it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think we have to close this at 12 o'clock. We are coming to an end. What comes to me, that's one line. Without intelligence, we continue to have problems, solutions. But with intelligence, life is a mystery, not a problem to be solved. Thank you so much for joining us. We will come back again, offline, online.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. See you next week.